Crawl before you ball, and then take a little bit of the money and save
Crawl
it, and then
before
do
you
something
ball, because wealth whispers and money jingle jangles and screams.
Lovely Purselle.
Hello.
I just washed. This way you don't wash your hair or try to clean your glasses
Up to the last second.
before you go live. My mother-in-law was here. She's lovely, but I took a nap when she left. So you know. Oh, David, speak. Hey, y'all.
Hello, everybody.
You can say hey.
Sorry, I gotta fill in guest hosting here for the moment. So let's see. Hello, Pretty Miss G. Hello, Kim's Corner. Hello, Faye Warrior. KK Savage. Terry B.
Somebody put a racist name up so he can say.
We got TT on helping us out, moderating for us.
She's our boss, so make sure this show is good.
Yep.
It's Miriam. We call
Miriam.
her TT. Her name is Miriam.
But
we don't know how to say her last name. Olorunsulo. Did I do it right? Solo. Olorunsulo. I'm from Nigeria too, god darn it.
I need to do a 23andMe. I bet you're more Egyptian.
I am probably Egyptian. Her sister said that. Ooh, child, his hair. Come on, we're gonna let this build because this is a good topic for discussion. And while this is building, y'all, what's up with? Can y'all hear us? What's up with Joel Osteen taking $4.4 million in PPP? Child, the pastor who didn't let nobody in when the hurricane came in the church house. But you're gonna take $4.4 million in free money from the government?
I mean, it's a terrible thing. The optics of that just are really not good. Bringing in millions and millions of dollars, and
he live in that darn Kennedy compound in Texas, where it don't cost that much to get a house, and his house is huge, honey, huge. And so PPP doesn't have to be paid back; it's a grant, it's money for your employees,
provided you're able to prove that you actually spent it on the things that it was for, payroll, rent.
Oh, look at you in my lane, Dr. Purselle. Good.
I have my business.
That's true. You do have a business. But I mean, you also have to look at it this way, though. The church has employees, right, y'all? And folk couldn't go to the church house. So them tithings was probably down.
True.
So maybe they needed that $4.4 million to pay for all them employees on that docket. But
although he is a very big online and
thank
live
you. He's got plenty
presence,
of money.
So
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
People are calling in those donations.
For that book. For all them books, that's the same book. But somebody said my daughter is a member of his church and I let her have it. Yeah, get him. He ain't letting them people in when the hurricane happened. And now you got some darn PPP. Now, it's some people that need to get PPP, small, medium businesses, but I don't think them huge businesses should be getting no PPPs. All right, well, we're going to be on time. We're going to give 2 more minutes till it's 3:05, and then we're going to get started with this topic. You think Mary from Real Housewives of Salt? Child, it's not a loan. People, if you use it for staff and rents and stuff like that, she probably did get it, but she has a smaller church. So, I mean, they claim it's a mega church, but it don't look like but more than 3 people in them services when they show it on that show. So I don't mind churches like that getting it. I mean, nonprofits get it. I didn't get it.
Well, and the thing to think about, $4.4 million. That's what you had to have had in payroll and employee expenses and rent in 2.5 months.
2 months. That's your payroll and rents. So, child, I'm messing with my hair because I just washed it for y'all be like, what's wrong with her? It ain't no nervous twitch. It's just looking a mess.
I just washed mine too, so I'll make sure.
I shouldn't have darn washed it first.
We'll do our primping and grooming right here
on camera. How unprofessional. We just gonna leave it like this, y'all. The Lord is with us today. You just gonna have to just do with it.
Oh, look, Pretty Miss G loves the color of my hair. Thank you.
She wasn't talking to you anyway. So yeah, that's a lot of money. And really the argument is you could have given that money to so many small businesses, because 2.5 months of a typical small business's payroll is maybe like 30,000 a month. You know what I mean? Or total.
Yeah.
And so oh, thank you. I'll leave it alone, MZ. Y'all know, and it's hot up and through here. I turned the air on. All right, so we're gonna get to it. 3:05. So today's topic is the color of COVID-19. I'm still seeing this title. Cause real talk, you know, the vaccine is available, and I have noticed, I'm having a hot flash. I'm a woman of a certain age, y'all. Dr. Purselle, that Sanjay Gupta, they parading around all the brown and black folk. You know, the head of Morehouse, something, I forget what her position is. She black. They used to be a professor at Morehouse also. But anyway, they had her, they had Sanjay, they getting all these people of color to do these filmed televised events of getting the vaccine. And I don't think that's enough to get the public's trust back, the public of brown and black people and people of color. So what do you think about this parading folk around as a method to try to get people to think it's okay to take the vaccine? Oh, and AOC got it in Congress.
You know, I think there's some utility to that. I think seeing public figures get it does hopefully inspire some confidence, but it doesn't get at the fundamental problem, and that is a basic distrust of clinical research in the Black population, particularly, just because of the history that has happened. I mean, you look at Tuskegee, Henrietta Lacks, and what happened with her genetic line and being used to really treat a number of different diseases
and giving her family $0.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that there definitely has been some issues in the past, but particularly Tuskegee, it was a big thing that helped lead a lot of the reform in clinical research. You know, in the last 50 years, you know, a lot of this started right after World War II because of the clinical research that was going on with the Nazis. They had the Nuremberg trials, and there was all these accords that came out that really started to drive new standards and rules for clinical research. And it's gone further even beyond that. You know, when Tuskegee came out and that became public, there were a lot of other commissions that did new rules. And so there's this international standard for doing clinical research that basically you want to make sure that it's equal across all people, that the research does apply to everybody, which means it's got to, you've got to include members of every ethnic group in research to make sure that it is effective across all ethnic groups.
So y'all need us.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Pretty much y'all need us. And unfortunately, we ain't trying to help because of this past and present.
I mean, I get that, but things are very different now. And, you know, all I can do is say it. I don't, you know, I think one of the things that could really be done to really help drive an improvement in trust would be to recruit more Black researchers to really do a lot of these studies, to bring in people of their own ethnic group.
No, that ain't gonna work for me. I'm gonna tell you why, because Uncle Tom's. Sorry, I'm gonna keep it 100. Too many people get paid and do bad stuff with their folk. And that's your people's fault.
That happens.
It's your people's fault.
Happens across the board.
That's true, but I'm just saying, I think the problem is like this comment from All About the Tea. Hey, what's up? Sorry, but my family and I won't be getting the vaccine. They're forcing this vaccine on color folk a bit too much. And yeah, I agree. It's like, it's too much all of a sudden. It's like every 15 minutes they're parading somebody on television saying, oh, it's great. And then, you know, what about the argument, Dave, that it seems like this was rushed? Like, ain't no HIV vaccine, ain't no, like, so how y'all discovered COVID a year ago and y'all already got a damn vaccine 8 months later that we should trust?
Okay, so a couple things I will say about that. One, they threw so many resources into this that they haven't into a lot of different diseases. But the other thing is with this virus in particular, we haven't seen the types of mutation that we have seen with other viruses. So you look at something like HIV and it changes quite a bit. And so it's hard to come up with a specific immune target for HIV because the whole thing that HIV does is destroys the immune system. And so it's difficult to really do that. If you look at the flu virus, they have to change that one every year based on the strains of flu that are prominent. And so, there are certain things, and it may turn out that with COVID-19, this is going to happen. We don't know. It hasn't been around long enough. But the way that they have developed this vaccine, it's a different way of doing a vaccine as well. This is what's called an mRNA vaccine. And even though they have been around for decades, there are no commercially available vaccines that are this type of vaccine. Basically, what it does is it uses a small piece of RNA, which essentially is it's the building block of proteins in our cells. And so they create a piece of RNA that will then build a protein, use our own cells in our body to build this protein that is a small piece of one of the proteins on the surface of the coronavirus. And so then what this does is the cells will put this protein out. The body will see that there's a foreign protein there, and it will create these antibodies to fight it. And that's how we develop the immunity, is that our body creates these antibodies that when it then sees the real virus, it goes out and it can kill it before it actually becomes a problem.
Tracy Chappelle has a great question, or Chapel. People of color didn't volunteer for the trial, so how do we know it's safe on people of color? I feel that's a very good question.
Well, so 9% of volunteers in the studies were Black. So there were, in one of the studies, there were about 44,000 people that received at least the first dose. There were about 38,000 that received the second dose as well. And again, 9% of those folks were Black. So yes, people were volunteering.
But 9% isn't representative of the Black population in the United States of America or the world. Yeah.
But it's still a fairly large representation.
Jeremy Freshly has a great question. I hope you guys touch on how the vaccine will affect the military, because they're saying they have to get it. It's your job. So
right. The thing I will say about that is, the military is obviously our defense. And if you have COVID-19 infections going through the military, it's really going to weaken the military. And so being able to vaccinate the military against it and reduce any reduction in force that may come from an outbreak is something that will help preserve our national defense.
So what about other employers telling their employees they can't come back to work unless they have the vaccine? Like, that's going to be a dicey situation.
I mean, it will be. I will say that I'm on staff at Piedmont Hospital, which is one of the hospitals here in Atlanta. And they have a requirement that you have to have the flu vaccine. You either have the vaccine or you have a proof that you're allergic to eggs or something like that, or you can't actually get the vaccine. The same is true for a TB test. You have to get tested every year to make sure that you haven't been exposed to tuberculosis. And the reason for this is because we're working with high-risk populations, we don't want to get them sick. And so we've got to protect ourselves to make sure that we're not going to be the cause of infection in somebody else.
So you brought up a good question. I mean, a good point. And I'm going to talk about Unique's question in a second, because it's a great one. But I have a cousin, and a lot of Black people, I think, can relate to my cousin JoJo's story. I have a cousin JoJo who was in the military. He had his medical tags on. He was in the hospital and was given the flu vaccine. And it clearly was noted that he was not supposed to get the flu vaccine. He got the flu vaccine and then became paralyzed from the neck down for 10 years. And so And David can explain why that happened. There's a medical reason, but you have to understand that that's scary.
Oh, absolutely. That's scary. And I would say that so those severe types of reactions are rare, but let me explain this one in particular. This is something called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And while, yes, it can happen after vaccines, it's actually much more likely to occur after a viral illness. So if you get a virus and you get this immune response, sometimes that immune response will attack your own body. And this is what happens in Guillain-Barré. And it attacks what's called the myelin. It's the sheath, the insulation around neurons. And so that breaks down. And so you don't get good neuron transmission. And that can lead to paralysis. But most of that comes from the actual viral infection and not from the vaccines.
Well, the military gave him a nice coin, so it was from the vaccine as far as we is concerned. I'm sorry, but anyway. But luckily 10 years later, he was able to start walking again and he's doing great. So David, Unique said, dang, I missed 10 minutes. I need to hear this. I have 2 young Black boys, one with autism spectrum disorder, and I'm afraid to give him things that may disturb his disorder. Very good question.
Okay. So, I will say that there is no evidence that vaccines cause or worsen autism spectrum disorder. There was a doctor who had done a study that turned out to be a bad study. The data was not good. The medical journal, I think it was, I can't remember if it was the Lancet or the British Journal of Medicine. I can't remember who published that study, but they ended up retracting the study when they found out that the data actually was not good data that was used in this. And so that whole thing has been debunked, but it has grabbed hold in popular culture, and this has been promoted. But the evidence is not there to say that vaccines cause autism or worsen autism in any way. And the other thing I will say is the thing that they were most concerned about is a preservative in the vaccines that contains mercury. It's not mercury itself. Mercury is a poisonous metal. But mercury, when it's mixed with other chemicals to form a new molecule, is no longer poisonous. But that is a preservative that was put in many of these vaccines. These new vaccines don't have that preservative at all. So that doesn't contain any mercury or anything like that, which is the thing that the anti-vax autism people are most concerned about.
Jeezy's Corner with TJ and Aubrey. I'm willing to get the vaccine, and I have lupus. I feel better. I feel about it. Well, I can't feel better about it than getting coughed on without protection.
Absolutely. So, when we look at what we're trying to do now and wearing masks help protect other people from infection that we may have that we could spread to others. Masks don't do anything to protect us unless you're wearing those N95 masks and you don't have a beard like me, because then it just kind of gets around.
Y'all seen my mask.
You got to have a good seal on those N95 masks. So it's helping to prevent the spread. I had done a demonstration video to kind of show that. Some of you may have seen that. But the vaccine is not protection for other people. The vaccine is protection for us. When you take the vaccine, you're protecting yourself. And if enough people get the vaccine, that will help protect the whole population.
So, as someone with lupus, these are my opinions. I am an MRSMD, not an MD. And so I am not advising that anybody do what I'm doing, but I am not getting this first round of vaccine, and my husband is doing everything he can to try to convince me that when it's available for me to get it. But there are just too many things that can disrupt my medical history. Like anything is off, and then I'm jacked up, and I just feel like, and now I'm gonna make a joke because I need to, because I know this is a serious subject, but I feel like the way that the American Medical Association and whatever the clinical research associations can gain back the trust of Black and brown people is maybe y'all get it this first round. And y'all pay us to stay at the house while y'all go through it. And we see how it works. And then I'm just saying, I feel like you ain't came up with no. I asked you what could they do other than sticking all the black people on TV? Pay the blacks and browns to stay at the house. White folks, since we've been the guinea pigs throughout 450 years of history, y'all get it. Let us see that y'all don't grow gills. Everything's fine. And I'm just saying this is how a lot of people of color feel. We're tired of being the ones that everybody does the examination treatments on, and it's like whatever the hell with y'all, whatever the side effects are. How about y'all do it? That's how you get our trust back. Y'all get it. Let us stay at the house so we ain't out in the public.
But part of the problem is that mentality is why white people are predominantly the ones in clinical research trials. So yes, we have done that.
Now y'all are.
Yes, but even in back in times when things were not good, white people were still involved in clinical research.
Yeah, running the trials, and they were the doctors and the researchers.
People didn't have the protections that they have now. Now, the one of the things that I'm going to say about the vaccine is the effect, any adverse effects, any side effects, anything like that is going to happen quickly after you get it, within a few days to a couple of weeks. There are not going to be any long-term effects from this.
But how do y'all know that, babe? Like, you can't, like, listen, and I know it's science, right?
Mm-hmm.
But real talk, and I know you ain't going to agree, but real talk, doctors really just be guessing. No.
But that's what clinical research is. It's testing educated guesses. And
so you can see why people are like, I ain't trying for you to test.
Okay. So let me say this. I'm sure just about everybody who's listening to us right now has taken some medication. Where do you think those medications have come from? They were developed in clinical research, and with far less people than what has gone into this vaccine research. The vaccine needed so many people because you had to look at the differences in people who get infected. When they do clinical research, when they kind of get to, there's different phases of trials. When they get to the phase 3 trial, that's when they're actually looking at, does this work for the disease we're trying to treat? Vaccines are a little bit different because you're not treating people who have COVID already. You're giving it to somebody to prevent COVID. So then you have to have a lot of people to determine how many people are going to get COVID or not. And, after they get the vaccine, it's what's called the power of the study. And when you take somebody who already has the disease, already is showing the signs and the symptoms, and you're developing a treatment, you don't need as many people. That can be done on the order of a few hundred to maybe a low thousands, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people. But there are long-term studies, and there's phase 4 studies where we monitor after the medication's been approved, just in case something comes up that didn't show up early on. So, the surveillance continues. And if something new comes out, it ends up being a change in the label. There have been medications that have come off the market because something did come up way down the road, something that was rare, but it started showing up in enough people after a long period of time that they determined it may not be safe to use this medication.
But do you see why that's the problem?
So, but that can happen with anything, not just a vaccine.
So let me just say, so you made the argument, where do you think drugs come from, right?
Yeah.
I get where drugs come from. And I think that you are talking about one thing like in marriage, just in general, but I think this topic with people of color and non-people of color are understanding that we understand science. It's not a lack of understanding of science. Okay. I get
it's a lack of trust of science.
Damn, babe. Damn. Here we go. Right. And this is what I don't think people are touching on. We ain't saying we don't understand the data. Okay. Mm-hmm. We don't trust y'all. So let me tell you what it goes down to. People like me think, okay, yeah, it's a vaccine out there that works and it's been out, right? I'm telling you what we think. Real talk. This is what people think. And the ones, the Sanjay Guptas, the Biden and all them, and the fact that Kamala ain't got hers yet is a little bit alarming for us, because they said they're not giving it to her yet because they want to see if Biden has any side effects because of the, transition of power. And if something happens to him, she needs to be able to serve as president. That ain't helping the matters. But I know, I get it. But I'm just saying that ain't helping matters when people are concerned. And so, again, it's not a distrust of science. It's we don't trust y'all. And so you got to get to the core of how can we trust y'all? Right. How can we trust that there's not one vaccine going out for the white folks and one going out for everybody else? That's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I get that. And, all I can say is things are very different now. There's probably nothing else that I can do to convince people. I think,
and I ain't beating you up. I told you I was going to come for you.
I know, but I think it's a systemic problem, and systemic problems take a long time to fix, and it does take systemic changes. I think the changes have been in place with regards to the protections and research. The change that we now need to do is to get more Black researchers to come on board. And I think over time, this will help change that perception.
I'm going to say again, Black people are like all skin folk and kin folk. And so I don't think just having representation of people that look like us, it's no different than having representation of people that look like us getting the vaccine on television. It's just not. I don't think that's going to be enough to get us to trust. I'm trying to be honest with you. I think,
like I said, I
think they're going to have to dig deeper. You can't just all of a sudden now, oh, well, that happened in the past. Y'all need to get over it. We done been getting over stuff too goddamn long. I did not say get over it. I know you didn't say that. I'm talking about folk that look like you. So here we go. Terry B, is Pfizer vaccine and Moderna the same? Moderna. Well, that says Moderna. So I read what she typed. Okay. The same vaccine when it's from different labs. Good question. I don't know that answer.
It's not the same vaccine, but it's the same vaccine technology. So they both are using this mRNA, but the mRNA is going to be a little different in each of them. But no, it's not the same vaccine, but they're very similar and they work equally well.
Based on the clinical trial that was how long?
Well, so, but
that was a loaded question.
So the clinical trials started in July. That's when they started to do the injection of the vaccine.
July of 2020.
July 2020. It was October when they started looking at the preliminary data. So just a few months. Okay. And already in that time frame, again, we're looking at 37,000 people, over 37,000 people. Already we were seeing such a strong effect. I mean, the effectiveness of this vaccine was beyond what everybody really anticipated. They were hoping for 75% effectiveness, but we get 95% effectiveness. This thing is working so well that they said, we don't need, or they're going to finish the studies, but they said, we can go with this data. This is strong enough. The side effects are minimal enough, and there aren't really any serious side effects that they're unexplained, and they happen so rarely that we can go to the FDA and we can request this emergency approval to start giving it to people because it's looking like it's so good.
Kim Nicole. So the vaccine is still in trial study, just now including the public. Girl. Mm-hmm.
It's still, so it has included the public the whole time from the start. This was open to the public. It is still going on.
That's not what she means. So let me get you to unscience that.
Okay.
She doesn't mean people volunteering to take their behinds for these clinical trials. They mean now, since nobody wanted to do them only 34,000 people want to do those clinical trials. Now we're going to make it be public. It's going to be, I'm just breaking down her question because you was trying to science it up. She's saying now we're going to force the military. We're going to force people who want to keep their job. We're going to force people who want government benefits. We're going to force regular folks to become part of this trial, or there will be ... consequences, which further doesn't make people trust y'all.
So the the reason for this, again, kind of gets back to just how effective this vaccine is. The studies actually are they're going to follow people for 2 years. But what they're looking, the primary endpoint, so this is kind of what the main goal of the study, the primary endpoint is, does it protect you from developing a COVID-19 infection? And so that question, the data is so strong, has essentially been answered at this point, and the safety data looks good. So, let me kind of break it down, because when we look at the really serious side effects, so out of these 37,000 people, there were just a very few what we call the serious adverse events, or SAEs. These are the ones we really pay attention to. These are the ones where people get so sick they end up in the hospital. Death is one of those that may happen. And there were, and I think this is from the Pfizer study, there were 2 people in the vaccine trial that died. One had, I think, like a heart attack, and one had some other issue that happened. There were 4 people that died that got the placebo. So they didn't even get the vaccine. Again, this is 37,000 people. It's not uncommon for a very small number of people like that to die. None of these deaths were thought to be related to the vaccine, because there was a very clear reason for the death and an underlying cause. Some of the side effects that have gotten a lot of attention in the news are these anaphylactic reactions. And again, it's just a few that have.
What is that?
So that's basically where your immune response kind of goes into overdrive. And it's kind of like if you're allergic to a bee sting.
Mm-hmm.
And
you need like an EpiPen and stuff.
EpiPen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because your immune system goes into overdrive. The adrenaline really kicks in. You get fluid built up in your lungs. You can get a lot of swelling, and that's the type of thing. But that can happen with any type of medication. It's not just from the vaccines. It can happen, like I said, if you have a peanut allergy, if you have any other type of food allergy, bee sting allergy, it can come from a number of different things. So this is not something that's just totally foreign to us.
So your mother-in-law, Linda Evers, and your father-in-law have a question for you. Your dad and I, hey mama, hey dad.
Hello.
Your dad and I were discussing this, and I'm wondering if employers are going to make this mandatory to keep someone's job. So my dad works for FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
He's retired Air Force, and he works for FedEx now. Very good question, mommy. You could have called in. Oh, hold on 1 second before we answer mama's question. TT's going to drop a link for y'all. We want to see your faces. Come on the screen. I learned this on All About the Tea. We can bring y'all up on the screen. I don't have enough hours yet for y'all to be doing super chat and all that and give me no coins.
But you can come on and ask your question.
But you can come on and ask your question. All right.
So some employers may make it mandatory. Many may just make it a recommendation. I think that's gonna depend on the employer, and the choice comes down to you either get the vaccine or have some medical reason why you can't get the vaccine, or you can't work there. And I think in certain settings. So for me, again, I was saying that I have to get a flu vaccine. I have to get my tuberculosis test every year. Being affiliated with the hospital, but this is really for public health issues, because we're dealing with a sick population, a high-risk population, and we don't want to spread it. So, am I against mandatory vaccines? In some situations, I don't think everybody should be forced to get it. No. But there are some situations where I think it is very important to do so, and making it a mandate is the way to enforce that.
We're gonna add Mabel in. Hey Mabel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
We're good.
We're fine, thank you.
Let me get Mama off the screen. Go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions, but my biggest concern is, now I work at a homeless shelter, so we get tested quite regularly. Mm-hmm. But they haven't mentioned anything to us about getting a vaccination. Now, I really don't want to do it. I'm scared. to be quite honest, because of what's going on. And then my other question is, I have a child that is a high risk factor. She has diabetes as well as asthma. So when she's gotten immunizations in the past, it's caused reactions. So should I be concerned about that?
It seems that the people that are having these very strong reactions, these anaphylactic reactions to this vaccine, are people who have had reactions to multiple different types of drugs. And so if you have that history, I would probably be a little more concerned about getting something like that. Now, with regards to kind of rolling out to the general population, it's going to be several months before it's out anyhow. Right now, they're really focusing on the frontline healthcare workers and the elderly, because those are folks who are at very high risk. And, a lot of people are going to get it after many more months, and we're going to have more data at that point. But honestly, I really don't anticipate there's going to be any other big issues that come up with this.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I hope not. I'm kind of with Buffy on the not trusting things. There's just a lot of mistrust in general.
Yeah.
Although I'm Caucasian like you, David, I have all Black children, so I've kind of
that's right,
learned.
Mama.
So people call me Black, but I'm not. I am Caucasian, but I understand, and by hearing their stories, that's where a lot of it's come from, and also just seeing how Trump treats people and stuff. And my question is, so they said there was 2 different vaccines, or whatever we're calling them. So it's kind of weird to me that Trump took one, but the other people are taking a different one. Is there any particular reason for that? Is it even really a vaccine he's taking? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing, Peter. I'm sorry, Mabel, you're right. So we really are like, are they giving them the vaccine or not? Like, just because we see.
And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just curious.
I get that. I get that. And I think the storage of each of these vaccines is different. And I think that's really that's what's going to drive who actually gets it and who doesn't. The Pfizer vaccine requires storage of something like minus 173 degrees. So there are very few facilities that can actually store that and be able to administer it. The Moderna vaccine needs to be stored at about freezing temperature. So it can be stored in any regular freezer. You don't need a special freezer. So it's going to be a lot easier to distribute and for a lot of facilities to give this one out. So I think because of that, we're probably going to end up seeing more Moderna vaccines being given out. But Pfizer was just first to the market. And so that's why I think we hear a lot about that one.
Well, that makes sense. Now, finally, you've been doing great.
Pfizer is bigger, quick to make the money. No, but I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all answering my question. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's all about money at the end. Thank you for having me on. I hope you go on to your next one. And I really appreciate Buffy. I know he's your husband, but you still coming for him in a respectful way. I appreciate that.
I'm here for the people. I warned them. I said, be ready. I'm going to say the real talk that the people saying, honey. I'm talking for the people.
I knew it.
All right. Have a great day, you guys. You're welcome.
Bye. All right, we're going to add Mel. Hey, Mel, how you doing? Thank you for joining us.
It's strong enough.
I just have a question.
Mel,
you're going to have to turn it off if you got it on, baby, because we can hear Dave talking in the background.
Yeah, if you can just mute
they're unexplained, and they happen so.
Oh, that's good. Oh,
not you.
You muted yourself.
You muted yourself, darling.
Can you just hit the?
I don't know how to turn it off.
Your speaker mute.
Looking like it's.
I'm just going to ask the question real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a possible.
Kim Nicole. So the vaccine is still in trial study, just now including the public.
Just talk over my loud behind. Go ahead.
Okay.
It's still
basically
so it has included the public.
Can you change your DNA with the mRNA?
This was open to the public.
Okay, good question.
Good question.
That's not what she means. So let me get you the unscience.
Mute yourself now, darling, so he can answer you.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, there you go. Thank you for your question. It's a very good question.
Okay, and I think this is a legitimate concern. But it's not something that's going to happen.
Repeat it in case people didn't hear.
So the question is, are we going to change our DNA with these mRNA vaccines? And the answer to that is no. So mRNA is a very short piece of RNA, which is so the DNA actually creates the RNA, which then creates the proteins. And so RNA does not fundamentally change DNA. It doesn't even get into the nucleus of the cell where the DNA is. It stays in the kind of the lobby of the cell, if you will. And that's where all the protein is created. And so it's there for a short period of time. It creates the proteins, and then the cell will see this as something that doesn't belong, and it's going to clear it away anyhow. But by then, the protein is already on the cell. And then that's when our immune system sees this protein on the cell that's foreign to us, and that's where it makes the immune response. You know, the way viruses work is some viruses are DNA viruses, some viruses are RNA viruses. They inject themselves into the cells, and then they use their own DNA or RNA to create multiple copies of themselves. And so the virus then gets out of the cell and it goes and infects other cells, and that's how it just keeps building and building and building. This mRNA, it's kind of self-limiting because it only creates a very small part of a protein, doesn't even create the whole protein. And so it's not something that's going to stick around. It's going to get cleared fairly quickly.
Cousin Kayan wants to know what exactly are the proteins you're talking about. Milton started something. Go ahead, girl.
So these mRNA proteins that we're targeting, the proteins we're targeting, is a part of the protein that's actually on the coronavirus itself. So it's one of the proteins that's used to bind to the cell so it can get into the cell. And so the body will see that protein because it's out on the outside of the virus, and then the antibodies, it'll create the antibodies to attack that. So when it actually sees that on the virus itself, it will attack the virus and kill it before it can really infect us.
Thank you for your question, Mel. Did he answer it? All right. Thank you so much. All right. We're going to add Miss Leah. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Miss Leah. Thank you for
Miss
joining us.
Bubby. I follow you regularly.
Thank you.
You make me happy. You always have. I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing, and you and your husband look beautiful together.
Oh, I need you around every day. Good energy.
I have COVID right now.
Oh my goodness.
And I've been fighting my husband along the way to stay. He was saying I was being too safe because both of us are high risk. Mm-hmm. And he's 11 years older than me. So he didn't take it as seriously. And now he's been in 2 separate hospitals with it now. And my question, I guess I should say, is I thought that I would be the one in the hospital, and I was so afraid to get it because we both have all these other underlying conditions. But going forward, the after effect, would the vaccine be something that they would give like for someone that's already had it before, or we don't know enough yet to know that? You know what I'm saying? My concern is because each person that you see that caught it earlier in the year, if they lived through it, they're still living through it because it turns around and something else happens within their body after the fact. Because even now, I do a lot of natural stuff anyway, so I'm still doing like holistic things to help myself. But my husband has gotten so bad that he's passed out like 3 times within the past week. It doesn't even seem like it's only been 7 days, and we were just diagnosed last Sunday. And so I see the extreme of it, and then I know how I feel. Mm-hmm. But I'm afraid now that I've have it, if it's not sending me to the degree that he's in right now, what do I have to foresee, say like 3 months from now?
Sure, absolutely. And so I certainly wish both you and your husband a speedy and full recovery.
Yeah, we definitely do.
I think in these trials, again, 44,000 people got the initial vaccine, but both of these require 2 shots, but at least 44,000 got the first shot. They did COVID testing to make sure that people didn't have it at the time, but I don't believe they were looking to see if people had been previously exposed. And I'm sure there were some people who had it that may have been asymptomatic that got the vaccine. The response, the immune response that you get if you've already had it and you get the vaccine is probably going to be more mild than it would be otherwise, because it's then not a new thing to your body. So it doesn't have to really ramp it up as much as it does for a new infection.
I don't mean to cut you off, but as you're saying that, I'm wondering about strains, just like with the influenza and the different, where there's different strains of it, where they've come back with a new and improved, a different strain of the vaccine because, something, it's mutated to something else.
Right.
By the time they get this vaccine to where they're launching it, or I'm not aware now. I mean, has it mutated already? I'm sure,
So there have been some very mild mutations, but apparently none of them are so significant that the vaccine wouldn't be effective. The issue with something like the flu vaccine. So again, this is a sort of a different vaccine. The older vaccines use either what's called an attenuated virus or a killed virus. So attenuated virus is a weak virus that can't cause infection. And then the killed virus can't cause the infection, but it can create the immune response. So those are going to really be more dependent on what that actual strain of the virus is. This one is looking at a particular protein, and as long as that protein is still present in the virus, and this is the protein that the virus actually needs to get into the cell, so there's not going to be a whole lot of room for mutation in that particular protein. But as long as that protein remains similar, the vaccine and the body's immune response is going to still be there.
Okay.
I'm gonna be praying for you. You keep us posted. You get your rest. We're sending love and light. I done picked up my crystal, sending you good energy.
Thank you so much.
Your husband, and I appreciate you calling in. And I'm gonna send you a message. TT, send a private chat. I need to check up on you. Okay, Miss Leah.
Thank you, guys. God bless you guys.
God bless you too.
You keep doing what you're doing, Miss Buffy. You really touching lives. You really are. You such a sweet person. I can see that from the moment you came on Married to Medicine, that you were a real sweet, down to earth person, and you was just being you, and that's all that you can do. And you are a good person through and through. So God bless you.
So much. God bless you too.
Thank you for talking to me. I appreciate you guys.
No worries. Thank you for calling.
Best wishes. So, but I think this brings up another important point, in that the illness itself can be very dangerous. Over 300,000 people have already died from this illness. There have been millions of people that have been infected. And the vaccine offers you protection against that. People aren't dying from the vaccine. People are dying from the illness.
That's a good point, David. We're going to welcome Dion now. She has a question. Hey, Dion.
Hi, Dion.
Hello.
You look lovely.
Thank you. So do you. Hey, Dave.
How are you?
I just had a quick question. My daughter has several food allergies. She's allergic to almost every single food. Should she avoid getting the vaccine? I mean, she's already not wanting to get it, but is that something that you recommend? I know you mentioned people who are allergic have a lot of different allergies to medications, but what about food allergies?
I think that I don't think we have a full understanding of that just yet. As long as there's not a whole lot of allergies to medications, I think it's going to be relatively safe. But I think this is one of those instances where we're going to have more experience with it to know. So there's no recommendation one way or the other with regards to it at this point. But, I think a little more caution. I would certainly want to make sure that whoever's going to be administering the vaccine is aware of that. And so they can really discuss the pros and the cons of it. But I think it does take a little more, it's going to take more data to really know that for sure.
And I have one quick question, and this is just your opinion, because I know you're in the healthcare field. Do you think that it's fair for people to work in the healthcare field to mandate their employees to take the vaccine that's going to be in contact with different patients?
I do. Again, because we're on the front line, if you see one patient who has the illness and you contract it yourself, and then you're dealing with a lot of other people, and people that come into the hospital are going to be high risk because they're coming in with illnesses, whether it's, because they're coming for all kinds of things other than the COVID-19 infection. And so if you're already sick, you're going to be at higher risk if you actually get this. And so, yes, I think to really help prevent that. And again, this is not something that's foreign. I'm required to get the flu vaccine. I'm required to do my TB testing because it's just a matter of public health.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. Right. Merry Christmas. We love you.
Same to you. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Dion.
All right, Sean, your thing is acting up. Hold on. Let me see how to add you. It says device is not connected. It's Sean Brooks. I'm going to need you to try again, Mr. Technology.
Come on, try to chip me up.
No, he isn't. Let me find. He had a great question, but I texted him and said, I'm not going to put it up on the screen. He needs to call in. We're going to go over a little bit because there's so many questions. We're not going to end right at 4, TT. There's so many questions, and I want David to have the opportunity. You're doing a great job. I beat the hell out of you, and you hanging in like a tramp, dude. Champ.
A tramp.
I'm COVID. I'm always making a joke. So you want me to go get you a water? You can drink that.
I came prepared.
Prepared. Okay. Sean, try again. It says device not connected. You have some technology problems. Tracy. Okay, we're gonna add Tracy while Sean gets himself together. Hey, Tracy.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Dr. Purselle, thank you for actually explaining it clearly, concisely, and in a way that it's easy to digest, because I see a lot of things on TV and it's like, well, what does that really mean?
Right.
So thank you for taking the time, because it definitely helps. I'm still not taking it, but it gives me a much better understanding of what it is. So my question comes, I have school age kids, and the school is like, we're not taking it. We're not going to open back up. And now they're talking about making kids take it or what other things that they can do. And I understand this vaccine is not the end all be all. Could you give us a better understanding of things that we should kind of be doing, looking out for, and adding to the vaccine so that we have a more well-rounded, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe this vaccine is the end all be all, and that's like the light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, the hopes are high because it is so effective, but you have to get a large proportion of the population to actually get that immunity in order to protect everybody. That's what's called the herd immunity. And it takes...
where'd you go, Tracy? Thank you, though. Go ahead.
It takes about 70 to 75% of the population to actually have that immunity for this, what's called herd immunity. So that's really what we're shooting for, to protect people who can't take a vaccine for whatever reason. When it comes to children, I think we're going to have more data. Right now, the Pfizer vaccine was tested in people 16 years and up. Moderna was 18 years and up. And so we don't have a whole lot of information on how effective it's going to be in children, or the full safety data in children. So I really don't see any school districts mandating this, because it's the data is just not there yet. Children are not many adults. Children, they have different physiologies. They react to things differently. And you really have to do studies in children as well to know fully how it's going to affect them.
Thank you for your question. Helen Williams has a question. I'm allergic to 5 meds, but also have early stage emphysema, and I can't read the rest. Diastolic dysfunction.
Yeah, diastolic dysfunction. Mm-hmm.
Do you think I should take the vaccine?
I would probably be a little more hesitant, although I'd want to know more about what happens with your allergic reactions to the medications.
Call in, Helen.
The thing that's most concerning is if people have had anaphylactic reactions to other medications. Which very well may have been what occurred to you with 5 medications, but more likely you may have had a more mild reaction to those medications. But you would be one that I'd be concerned about for a couple reasons. I'm concerned about the allergies as far as giving you the vaccine, but I'm also concerned about the emphysema and the diastolic dysfunction, which is kind of a form of heart failure. Because you're at very high risk. So if you were to actually get sick with the virus, you could very well be in a lot of trouble. And so you're one of those that's sort of on the fence with regards to whether that recommendation is made for you. But you are also the perfect person that would get protection if enough other people get that, so we have the herd immunity. Because again, not everybody can take the vaccine. And if enough people do, we protect those as well.
Good answer, Dave. Kim Nicole, someone else asked this, but will vitamin D help in fighting COVID-19?
I don't think there's any evidence for that specifically, although I will say vitamin D is a good thing.
And Black people historically are low in vitamin D.
Vitamin D deficiencies affect all kinds of things. It affects your physical health. It affects your mental health. So when in doubt, take a vitamin D supplement. There's little downside to it, but I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever with regards to this virus.
So doctor said, get you some vitamin D. All right, we're going to ask Sean Brooks.
He's going to dance.
He's going to dance in because he's about to get you all the way together. Get him, Sean. Get him. I told him we was going to get him.
All right. The question, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. The question I have is, I feel it can cause some discriminatory action as far as people that are getting the shot, then they're given an ID card saying they got the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have something that they could use if you go someplace and say, show me your card. Is that
your
fair?
Papers. That what you mean? Your papers, Sean.
Right.
Your papers.
Is that fair? Because first and foremost, there's not enough vaccines, let's say, for everyone to take.
Right. Exactly.
So why are you putting that in place? That's a form, to me, is a form of discrimination. But that's my question. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the ID
Get
card.
your phones together before you call into my show, being ghetto. Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of the ID card. But I see some utility to it, but I think it also will probably give a little bit of a false sense of security with
Right.
that. But again, we don't have enough people. I think once we get enough people vaccinated, it's going to really help everybody. It's going to help the whole population. ID cards aren't going to be necessary. But no, I'm not.
But what about the ones that don't want the vaccination? Are they going to force everyone to take it? Is that going to be something that's?
No, I don't think they'll force everyone to take it.
So if you go into the mall, you can't enter if you don't have a card.
So there probably will be some businesses that say that.
Just like you can't go up in there without a mask.
Yeah. I am all for individual freedom, but I'm also all for public health.
Right.
And it's like anything. For every choice that we make, there are consequences that come from it, whether positive or negative. And you have that choice, but that doesn't mean that somebody else has to treat you exactly the same just because you made a particular choice.
Right. Okay. Fair.
I mean,
that's fair.
Is it satisfactory?
I mean, I still say they didn't think about that. You know, as far as what it could cause. You know what I'm saying? I know they're in a rush.
I think they did think about that.
Because now you're forcing people into something that hasn't been fully tested.
Right. Well,
I get science, I'm with science, but it hasn't been fully tested.
I think the problem with the ID cards is, the scientists and the politicians will have, and so Caroline Simmons brings up a good point. Everyone has a record of immunization, which
but you don't have, but you ain't got to show that to go into the mall or to go
to have it with you.
Go to school and places like that where you're going to be around others that may potentially be at risk. I think the scientists and I think the politicians have thought about the ID card and the potential implications of it. I think where the misuse is going to come is for certainly in some political spheres. I think there will be some misuse, but I think in people who don't fully understand what the meaning of it is, that's where it's going to be misused. The meaning of either having it or not having it.
Right. Fair. Thank you, Dr. Purselle.
You can't, David, he gonna bring the facts and he gonna be fair. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for your question. And next time when you call, please put your phone on vibrate. I mean, so we don't have these difficulties.
We're gonna kick you on out real quick.
Sean is family, y'all, if y'all don't know.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
What's the name of your book, Sean?
It's all about you. There it is. The essentials of building and managing your online brand.
That's what happened when Buffy Purselle manages your business. We're going to get that here, baby.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work.
All right. My dad says, this is my dad, Joseph Evers. I'm taking the vaccine after great debating with Dave, my war counselor brothers. Oh, Rick, Reggie, and Andre. Andre and them don't want to take it, Dad.
So I like to think I have changed at least one opinion.
You got that. I don't know about mama yet. We're going to see. Hold on. Let me get to some other questions. TT's been doing a good job of trying to point me in the right direction. Oh, wait, here we go. They stated the card was to remind you of your next second dosage.
So you will get a reminder card because you do have to have 2 doses of the vaccine for it to actually be effective. But that first card is not one that's going to state that you have fully, it'll say you've gotten the first vaccine, you got to come back and get the second vaccine. I think what we're talking about is someone who's gotten both vaccines, they may get another card. And I don't know, I haven't been vaccinated myself, although I'm hoping I will be able to as soon as it's available. But I don't know fully what the card says. But like Sean said, I think there is the potential for misuse. But there's also the potential for it to be an effective tool.
And one of the reasons why David wouldn't be explain why you're not you'll be probably in a later round because you do mostly telemedicine.
Right, because I'm not working directly in a hospital, so I'm not around all the high-risk people on the day-to-day basis. So I may not be in the first round. Now they may come and say that, with Piedmont where I am, they actually haven't announced that they're doing the vaccinations yet. They may come and say they want all their staff to get it. If it's offered, I will take it.
His wife will not yet. I've not been fully convinced.
I'm still working.
He's still working on me. Although he had a good question a while ago and I didn't get to it. Do you think schools would make this vaccine mandatory for all students?
No, I don't, because getting back to, we don't have the data in kids. So it's not recommended for kids at this point. So no, I don't think any school can mandate that at all at this point.
I have a question if y'all will allow me real quick. Hold on, how I take this off, y'all. Technology. I feel like and a clap for me dealing with these questions. I feel like I'm on it today.
This is my usual job. It's hard.
So okay.
And I haven't yelled at you once.
You haven't. So I saw earlier someone asked about when we were talking about not that the certainty that this vaccine is great and there haven't been that many side effects and the side effects should come only in a week or two. People are like, what about metformin and what's recently happened with metformin, which I used to be on?
Well, So again, we do what's called post-marketing surveillance on every drug. And sometimes things come up that there weren't enough people getting it. Because, like I said early, most clinical trials for medications that are being used to treat a particular illness they can be done in a far fewer number of people, a few hundred to maybe 1,000 or so. These vaccines are being tested in tens of thousands of people. So 44,000 people got the Pfizer vaccine. I think the Moderna number is something similar. And so, you're going to see a lot more of the early effects. Later effects, again, because of the nature of the vaccine, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of later effects, but I'm not going to say we won't. We might. It's only been a few months, but I think the chances of that, just because of how the vaccine works and what it does, I think is low.
And so my follow-up question, Dr. Purselle, is, the fact that we can't get a deal in Congress right now is largely to do with the fact that the Republicans are trying to push through corporate immunity to force people to go back to work. And if they were to come down with COVID, the employers don't have to pay their families or take care of them.
Right.
Well, the same is with pharmaceutical companies. So if we were to take this COVID vaccine and have some adverse reaction, are they going to pay us?
Usually the lawsuits that come out of drugs is something that, either they saw and they didn't warn people enough, or some later effect that we didn't initially recognize, but then causes serious harm or disability kind of in the long term. And again, these are medications that people take every day. There are very few instances of kind of a one-time thing where you're going to get long-term effects. That's medications that you take every day that you have exposure to constantly. You have a much higher chance of getting these long-term effects farther down the road. For example, medications that we use in mental health. I think lithium is a good example. So lithium is a mood stabilizer. It's been around forever. Lithium is really just an element. You put it into a molecule, but it's just lithium is when it kind of breaks up from the molecule, that is what's effective. And for the most part, the effects of lithium immediately are very good. It can help with depression. It can help with bipolar disorder, mania, reduce suicidal thoughts. But we know that there are long-term effects that can come years down the road. It can affect your kidneys. It can affect your thyroid. And so you really have to balance the potential for the long-term effects with, the effect that you're going to get right now. And, the medication is not right for everybody. And the more experience we have with it, the more data we have with it, we're going to be able to fine tune exactly who these medications and these vaccines are right for.
So we're going to take a couple more questions. RJ Lee Sr., isn't there a difference between efficacy, which are conducted in clinical trials, and the effectiveness of the vaccine once provided to the general population? That's above my pay grade. Yeah, good question, RJ.
Right. And the answer to that is potentially. I think we're going to have to kind of get out there and see. I mean, right now it hasn't been given to the general population, so we don't know what the effectiveness may be. It could be that it holds that it's going to be 95% effective even in the general population. It may be that it's a little bit lower than that. It could be that it's even a little bit higher than that. That's just sort of the nature of a clinical trial. A clinical trial kind of takes a snapshot. It takes a sample of data, a sample of effects, and looks at it. And then we try to make broader statements about how that's going to work across everybody. But as you get more and more data and you get it into a broader population, new things may come up. So, we're just going to have to sort of wait and see. But I have a feeling the effectiveness, even in the general population, is going to be relatively close to what we're seeing in the clinical trial because it has been such a big clinical trial.
Thank you for your question. We're going to take one more question.
Sierra 11, why take the vaccine now when there are reports of the virus being more deadly?
So you don't get the virus. But
I think some people think that you get the virus when you take the vaccine.
Okay. Yeah. And so
I think that's more the point.
Right. Okay. And so again, this is a different type of vaccine. This is not a viral vaccine. I mean, it's to fight the virus, but it's not a virus itself. Most of the other vaccines that are commercially available and that we use to treat the general population are either what's called an attenuated virus, which is kind of a weakened virus, or a killed virus, a virus that essentially can't replicate itself any longer. And so we're looking at just getting the immune response from that. But this is not the virus itself. This is actually having our body make a small portion of one of the proteins that's a very important part of the coronavirus. So our bodies then make that small part of that protein so we can mount an immune response to it. So when we do see the virus that has the protein, our immune system can clear the virus so we don't get infected.
Quick follow-up question. I know I said that I am not, I wasn't taking anymore, but this is a good follow-up question. Will those vaccinated come back for COVID-19 testing to see if it's working?
Yes. So in the clinical trial, they're going to be following people for 2 years. And so that will actually give us a good idea about long-term immunity with this also. That, it's another question that we just don't know the answer to. Is it that these vaccines are effective in 95% of people, or, they're going to prevent 95% of the infections for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, for lifetime? We don't know that. And that's why we do these longer term studies, and some more data will come out. But for the immediate needs, and because this virus is so dangerous, and we know that this vaccine is effective at helping prevent it, at least in the short run, it's important to get out there and start to help create more of an immunity across our population.
Well, thank y'all so much. This went really well. We really appreciate everyone for calling in. Mom said we did a great job. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
My dad has jokes. He says, y'all overtime. I'm not the producer or anything, but an alum.
So, I mean, you could have tuned out at 1 o'clock. You did. Again, you made your choice, and your consequence was you got to stay a little bit longer and learn some information.
So y'all, again, we appreciate y'all. You can, if you have further questions, feel free to put them in the community board on my YouTube, and Dr. Purselle will promise, because we're going to be off. He's off as of Wednesday, I think. We'll make some time to get him to answer your questions as he can. And we're going to be off next Sunday and the following Sunday for the holidays. But then when we come back, I'm very excited to announce that my team has been working on putting together some real resources for people who are suffering from the pandemic financially. I feel like it's wrong for me to shame people and tell them they've got to give up this and that and be on a budget when there's no money within the budget. So Crawl Before You Ball is going to take a different turn in the new year, where we work to provide job resources for people with with little to no skills, that you can work from home, resources where you can get a laptop, because everybody, baby, is going to need one now, resources so that you can get access to the internet, because there are a lot of people who are suffering from the digital divide and don't have good access to the internet, food resources, and me making people not feel shame, because it is what it is right now. I mean, I get so many emails from people saying, this money they're giving us with, and a lot of people didn't even get the first $1,200. It's not enough. It's not enough. And when these Congress playing games, and when these people start getting kicked out of their apartments, their homes, it's going to be like 2008, but worse, because now there's a deadly virus out there that people are battling. And so our focus is now going to be providing, instead of me saying, girl, you don't need no coffee, you don't need this, you don't need that. I love all y'all that I provide budgets for, but if you got a little there, and there's some change in the account, and some access, some credit cards, and food in your pantry, I'm gonna put you on hold right now, because we need to work on the folks that's really suffering. And if you have any resources, please hit us up. Ola@BuffyLLC.com. Tito, please put that in the comments. Because we got to really help some folk.
All right. Well, we appreciate all y'all. Merry Christmas.
Happy
holidays.
everybody.
Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. We love you all. And we will come back and revisit this topic because this is going to be going on for a while. And you did a great job, Bubsy. You took it from me like a champ, baby. Not a tramp. All right. We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good day. All right. Happy holidays.
Please crawl before you ball, and then take a little bit of the money and save it, and then do before something you ball. Because wealth and money jingle jangles and screams.
Purselle.